2 passes. So I'll be reading some things, and we're going to be playing taps, and then we'll begin our program after that. So please remain standing. So let's begin. Please stand. Today is courtesy of Freedom Flight, which flies out of Conroe Airport. Freedom Flight will now regroup for the Missing Man formation. A long-standing military tradition has been to honor a departed airman with a Missing Man salute. The maneuver is done out of a fingertip formation. When passing over, the number 3 ship will pull up and out of the formation, leaving a noticeable gap, and then will head west. The loss of an aviator has since been referred to as going west. Freedom Flight has expanded the tradition and does a Missing Man formation to honor any of our service. You may be seated.
I think Phyllis Teasdale, maybe at the intermediate or elementary school, and General Mike Ogg, who was the junior high school principal, invited some veterans to come up to the school to have coffee on Veterans Day. And that has started a tradition that we hold true here, and today we're here to honor 20 years of celebrations of veterans in Montgomery ISD. Every campus has a program, and we like to say, you know, we're really trying to work it. Every day is Veterans Day. We're working on a Veterans Month. So we continue to have programs like this to kick off the month, and we have different programs throughout this great month of November to celebrate our veterans. And again, we're just so thrilled to have you here. And parents, we appreciate you being here as well. Looking forward to hearing from over 2,000 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students, and appreciate the high school choir as well. Very happy to be able to introduce our guest speaker to you today, Art Rascon. There you go. Hey, a man who needs no introduction. Art has reported on wars and conflicts in Iraq, Israel, Serbia, Kosovo, Bosnia, and throughout the world. He's reported on a host of U.S. presidential elections, 3 papal elections from Rome. Rascon has covered terrorist attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C., among other cities, and has reported on disasters everywhere, from hurricanes along the Gulf states to tsunamis in Asia and earthquakes, being one of the first to report from Haiti. Rascon has been nominated for 25 Emmy Awards and has won 19 Emmy Awards. He is the recipient of more than 3 dozen other local reporting awards from press clubs in Houston, Los Angeles, and Miami, and a host of national awards, including 2 Edward R. Murrow Awards, 3 National Association of Hispanic Journalists Awards, and the International Rotary Award for Meritorious Reporting. He's born in El Paso, Texas, and reared in Denver, Colorado. Rascon graduated from Brigham Young University. He also studied Spanish, Humanities, European Politics and History in Madrid and Spain. Rascon is happily married with 8 children. Please help me welcome Art Rascon.
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate your kind introduction. I heard a lot of laughter and sighs when you talked about my kids. Fortunately, most of them are away from home now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege, it is an honor to be here. God bless the veterans of this country. As that beautiful flyover was taking place, my mind caught hold of an experience while I was covering the war in Iraq. I remember Sergeant Ross McGinnis and his story. I remember that he was sitting in a Humvee, and he was one of 4 individuals inside that Humvee. But he was the gunner. He was the one who, if you don't know what a gunner is, for you kids, that's the one who stands up, who is halfway outside of that Humvee because he is using the machine gun. And he was halfway out of that hole using that machine gun. There were 3 other men inside the Humvee. And while they were driving down a dirt road, combating the evils of that area, there was a grenade that was tossed into that Humvee. And Sergeant Ross McGinnis could have been the first one out. And that's the order generally. If you see a grenade, you just run, you just jump, you just get away as far as possible. But not Sergeant Ross McGinnis. Instead of jumping out, which he easily could have done, instead, he jumped down into the Humvee and covered his body. Using his body, he covered that grenade and allowed the few seconds necessary so that 3 other men could escape. They only suffered minor injuries. But Sergeant Ross McGinnis was killed. He was killed instantly because of that blast. But he was killed for something far greater than we will ever realize, and that is freedom, patriotism, honor of country. And so when I see that flyover, when I saw that go by, those were my immediate thoughts of Sergeant Ross McGinnis, who was not able to be here today because of the loss in which he suffered. But ladies and gentlemen, we live in a great country. And God bless the young people here for being here today. I'm going to call out your school, and I want to see how loud you are. Stewart Creek Elementary, where are you? All right. Stewart Creek Elementary. Montgomery Middle School. Whoa! Wow. They are middle school students. Lone Star Elementary. That was a pretty high decibel. Wow. Madley Ranch Elementary. Man, this is tough competition. Montgomery Elementary. Teachers need to get paid more. Montgomery Intermediate. Wow. You kids are awesome. You are awesome. Montgomery says they won. They're pretty close between them and Montgomery Middle, but you were all terrific. You know, I don't know whether you noticed in your program, I was reading that beautiful poem by Bill Shulwin. I guess he wrote it February of this year. I'm going to read that because it is so important, critical to our understanding, especially to you young people. And I speak specifically to the young, but of course thanking everyone for this wonderful day in which we are celebrating, especially the veterans. Phyllis Teasdale for putting this together and having pioneered this thing 20 years ago. That is awesome. Barry Russick, who is part of the Legionnaires and a veteran himself, I must have received 80 emails from him. But this beautiful poem: blessed be the soldier, the sailor, the marine. Blessed be the airman, Coast Guard, and merchant marine. They all have served us throughout history. They're the reason why today we all live free. Blessed be the veteran and our active troops as well, those who returned safely and those of them that fell. We all enjoy our life here in the land of liberty. God bless America, and God bless you and me. What a beautiful poem. Our thanks to Bill Shulwin. Do we understand what freedom is? Especially to the young people. Do we understand what you have today in this country? Do you? Good. I hope so, because I've traveled this world again and again and been in most areas in which there are dictatorships and tyrants and communism and socialism. But here in the land of the free, the home of the brave, is where we thank God for the rights and liberties in which we have today. Absolutely. And if you reflect back on when that all began during the Revolutionary War of 1776. Now, I know you don't remember that, but hopefully you remember something of what your teachers have taught you about that great day, of that great year, of those subsequent years in which we were fighting the battle for freedom. We were fighting against the British Empire. They ruled the entire world practically, and we were fighting against this unbelievable empire. 20,000 ragtag troops with George Washington as their general fought against this massive battle. And by any measure of the word, one would say there is no way, it is impossible for you to win. But yet, because of the blessings of God, we did win. John Adams stood and argued for independence right there at the Continental Congress in 1776 and said, we are in the midst of a revolution, the most complete, unexpected, and remarkable of any revolution in the history of mankind. The lives and liberties of millions of people now stand before us. He had a vision. The founding fathers of this land had a vision that this land would stretch from the East Coast to the West Coast, and that freedom and the right to be self-governed and the right to have religious freedom, to worship in whom we please, and the rights of the free press, all of those things would be eventually realized. Thomas Jefferson wrote in his journal about that day when John Adams said those words. He said, John Adams was filled with a divine spirit and spoke for 90 minutes, and we could feel the power of his words. And so George Washington went forward, leading those troops. Sometimes there were 10,000, sometimes 20,000, at the most 25,000, against an empire in which ruled most of the world, with their 400 ships off the coast. But yet, we suffered many losses. But most importantly, we suffered through what we knew to be a great cause of freedom. And in the end, we won. And I am grateful for those freedoms. So, young people, kids, students, remember the freedoms which you enjoy today. I remember when I was in Iraq, I was there with, right there at the battlefront, with the English troops, the British Army, as they invaded and conquered the land of Basra, which is in southern Iraq. And as I was there with those troops, they had already killed off the enemy, and we were riding into the city, and there was a lot of celebration in the streets. And I jumped off the Humvee because I wanted to talk to some of these young Iraqis who were there. And I jumped off the Humvee and went over there and talked to them. I said, does anyone speak English? And this one young man raised his hand. He said, I do. I said, well, great. Why are you so happy? And he said, because today we have been liberated. And he spoke in behalf of like a couple of other dozen young kids who were with him. And I said, what does liberation mean to you? And he says, it means that we're free. And I said, well, what does freedom mean to you? He says, it means that I can walk down this street and not get hit on the head by the butt of a rifle from a soldier telling me which direction to go. It means that I can go to the church of my choice. It means that I can worship who I want to worship. It means that I can get an education and go to a college. It means that my younger sister, who is 12 years old, who has never read a book because she's not allowed, can actually go to a school. It means that we can enjoy some degree of not only religious freedom, but freedom of government. He was so happy. And I thought to myself, we experience those freedoms every single day of our lives. Do we realize that, kids? I hope so, yes. Do you understand the freedoms which you have, the potential which you have, the opportunities which you have? Sergeant Ross McGinnis gave up his life and thousands of others so that you can live free, and so that we can stand here in this open public area and put our hands over our hearts and pledge allegiance to a flag and honor God who gave us this country. And for that I am grateful. One last quick story. I come from most of Americans come from immigrant ancestry. My grandparents are from Mexico. They came across this land because they wanted a better life. They came here when they were teenagers. They dropped out of 3rd and 4th grade. They never had much more than a 3rd or 4th grade education. They came to this land because they wanted something better. And they did. They found something better. They had a prosperous life. By comparison, they were still very, very poor, but my mother was 5th of 9 children in which my grandparents had. When there were 5 children at home, my mother being number 5, my grandfather went to the family and said, "Our country is involved in a war, World War II. I feel like I need to go and fight and help and support my country." And they're like, "What? You're going to leave your family of 5 children?" Now, of course, during that time, the draft was in place. If you kids don't understand the draft, that means every 18-year-old goes. And in fact, there were 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, and even 15-year-olds that left to battle. All young men had left. Those who were married started to leave. Those who had families were secondary and third. Those who were immigrants had no obligation to do so. But yet he said, "I want to go." And so his family said, "Well, okay, God bless you." And he left. He got on a ship and was sworn in as a citizen of the United States on his way to Europe. And my mom used to tell me every week or every few days they would walk down to the post office and check to see if his name was on the killed in action list. Because every week they would have different names. They would have a whole list of names of those who were killed in battle, and those who were still missing, and those who were wounded. And one day, my mother saw the name of her father, my grandfather, on that killed in action list. They mourned and they were sad and they cried. But 2 weeks later, his name suddenly appeared on the wounded list. And they celebrated. And soon he came home. He died when he was 90 years old. But he died a hero because he understood the great freedoms which we enjoy and wanted to be a patriot and give his life, was willing to give his life for this country. So you young people, remember the freedoms which you have, and remember that these freedoms are never, ever free. God bless you. God bless the veterans, and God bless America.
third place winner and recipient of $10 is Tabitha Sanchez. Tabitha wrote about Rosa Parks. Our second place winner is Brianna Davis, and she wrote an essay about her uncle who is a veteran. She gets $15. Our first place winner is Kendall Legg. Kendall is a recipient of $25, and she's going to read her essay to you, and it's entitled My American Hero Soldiers.
My American Hero. My American hero is a soldier. First and foremost, it takes a lot of extreme pride, courage, and self-sacrifice to be a soldier. Soldiers have accomplished a lot in the past years through war and training. Being a soldier comes with a lot of responsibilities, especially on the battlefield. Being a soldier means having a lot of motivation and ambition. Also, having loyalty to others is important. You have to be able to make your mind and body work together to achieve your goal, whether it's on the battlefield or not. That is why soldiers are my heroes. First of all, soldiers have the most motivation and ambition. It takes a lot of courage and pride to keep trying even when you fail to get back up. Soldiers fight for our freedom and for us to be happy. I appreciate that, and I hope you do too. Secondly, soldiers also have self-sacrifice and extreme pride. It takes a lot of self-sacrifice to walk on the battlefield and know that you might lose your life. You have to care a lot about your people to die for them. Overall, soldiers are brave, fearless, heroic people. Soldiers are loving and caring people who fight for us to be free. Soldiers are people with big hearts and use kind words. That's why soldiers are my hero.
Okay, let's give them another round of applause. They did a great job. Okay, sixth grade also did an essay contest, and Tim Williams, the MMS principal, is here to introduce that winner.
Hey, all right, good morning. I would like to introduce Mr. Irving here. Jacob Irving is a sixth grader at our campus. He's the son of Kevin and Michelle Irving. He's a member of the Christian Youth Theater and is also a member of our choir and wrote an awesome paper about patriotism.
When I was younger, patriotism was just a word. It didn't mean anything. I didn't understand that there were people who sacrificed their lives, homes, and families for me. I didn't think that I needed to know what it meant. It turns out I do. Now, a patriot is the definition of a brave, loyal, altruistic hero who fights for their country and what they believe in. Unfortunately, there are not very many people in this world today who have the bravery to show true acts of patriotism. I would love to be able to do those kind of things, to be able to have the passion and bravery to do what a soldier does every day. I need to learn how to do these things so that I can be a leader and an example for my generation. Later in life, patriotism will probably evolve into a word that gives hope and reassurance. It will show that people are still passionate for their country or religion. Patriotism is the word that describes the people who go into battle every day to fight and win, not for the fun of it, but for all the women and children that are at home praying. Patriotism is what people fill their hearts with when they pick up that pen and write their name on that draft list, along with all the other patriots.
Great job, students. Now we're going to have our fourth grade. We have 4 elementary schools coming into one and singing, so this ought to be great. Here's our fourth grade. recognition music when we hold up the sign and it's your branch. Would you stand, please, and be recognized? So here we go.
Wow, what an amazing program that we have had this morning. Let's give everybody, our choirs, our teachers, staff, everyone for who's participated. Let's give she came up with this idea. So there has been lots of behind the scenes work to make this happen for today. So I want to thank several people who have helped make this program so special for today. We have the Montgomery High School, the Madrigal Choir, who sang our national anthem this morning, the music that they sang. Our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade choirs who came out, and it is so awesome to see all the campuses come together and get to sing and learn the same songs. The high school, Marine Corps, the junior ROTC, who posted in the retiring of our colors this morning. The Montgomery High School, the Bonnie Bells and cheerleaders who cheered on our veterans as they came in this morning. The Lone Star Freedom Flight for their awesome flyover this morning, which was amazing. Our Southeast Texas Patriot Guard and our Montgomery Fire Department for their salute and welcome to all of the veterans as they drove into the stadium today. Dr. Reese for all of his help getting everything set up. I know he worked very close with Mrs. Teasdale, so we appreciate you. Art Rascon, our guest speaker today from ABC Channel 13, who was awesome. What a great message he gave today. Cowboy Kia, the auto in Conroe for the patriotic flag, which welcomed our veterans today on top of the fire truck as you drove in, so they let us use that. All of those who helped publicize this event, from the Conroe Courier, the Montgomery County News, and all the others who helped spread the word. And then our Jesse Alfred and his crew, thank you so much for everything that you have done. Even to the detail on the field, for the red, white, and blue on the 40-yard line, the 50-yard line. So all the attention to detail, thank you so much for all of that. Our campus PTO, students, faculty, and staff, for your, you'll all created the cards, patriotic signs, the decoration, everything to make the stadium look so patriotic and welcoming for all of our veterans. So thank you for all of you who were a part of that. Also, I want to thank Miss Judy Russick, Barry Russick's wife. She volunteered with her group of friends every year. They have done this for us. They all get together, retired teachers, and they read all of our 5th grade essays, and they choose our top 3 winners. So we appreciate all of their time and their effort reading those essays and doing that for us. But most of all, we have 2 very, very, very special people that we want to recognize this morning, because I don't think we would have this program if it wasn't for these 2 people. So I'm going to have Mr. Barry Russick and Mrs. Phyllis Teasdale, if they would please come forward. First of all, I want to start out by recognizing Mr. Barry Russick. He has been publicizing the MISD Veterans Day celebrations throughout the district for the past 11 years. His tireless work getting the word out, which he is excellent at getting the word out, about all the scheduled events happening throughout the district has made a huge impact on the success of all of the events throughout the years. Barry has also taken the role of snapping pictures, videotaping some of the events as well. He's always there with a video camera. I think he traveled to every single one of our campuses for the past 11 years, making sure all of us had videotapes and could remember our veterans program. From visiting veterans to hanging flyers in businesses, his volunteer work has not gone unnoticed. For this, we would like to present Barry Russick with a plaque of recognition. It says, "In appreciation to Barry Russick for your volunteer work and dedication to the MISD Annual Veterans Day Program." So thank you. Okay, and next we want to recognize and honor Mrs. Phyllis Teasdale. In 1996, Phyllis Teasdale, a teacher at Montgomery Intermediate School, hosted a Veterans Day celebration with a few veterans from the local area who came to the school, had coffee and breakfast, and talked about their experiences during their military career. That same year, Montgomery Junior High held a celebration as well. These veterans took it upon themselves to spread the word and continue the tradition even today. Some even became volunteers in the schools. Since then, the Veterans Day celebration in Montgomery Independent School District have branched out to include all 8 of the campuses. Phyllis has taken an active role in coordinating the Veterans Day celebration at Montgomery Intermediate School for the past 20 years. Phyllis, whose father was a World War II veteran, has a passion for making sure our veterans are appreciated and respected for their service of our country. Each year, these events draw many veterans to our area to be a part of a long-standing tradition. With the help and the support of her fellow teachers, administrators, and students, these events have made a lasting impression on our veterans. Phyllis is married to Brad Teasdale, coach and teacher at Montgomery High School, and she has 2 children, Lauren and Blake, both who graduated from Montgomery High School. She has been an educator at MISD for the past 25 years. She has many relatives who have served and are currently serving in our military. And I have to say she is very special to me, being a teacher at my campus, and I want to recognize and honor Mrs. Phyllis Teasdale.